remind you of our poll and see where that thing stands at the moment, if we could. All right, what's the leader in the clubhouse? Okay, they're okay with logos, not with names. That is the leader at the moment. And then in second place, it's I hate every bit of it, followed by I'm fine with it if the cash equals winning. There aren't many of you who say, only 6% are saying, I don't mind any of it. So most of you aren't fans of it. Go ahead, keep clicking the QR code and vote at sportsource.tv/polls. Okay, Tennessee added the Food City Center. We talked about that. There's probably something that's going to happen with Lindsey Nelson Stadium. Mr. of all baseball over here, let me ask you this. Do you think that name will change, or do you think it will be something like we just saw, an addition, but we don't take Lindsey Nelson Stadium, they don't take the name off of the stadium? Do you see Lindsey Nelson's name being removed?
I do not, especially after you take this approach of patting yourself on the back and recognizing your sensitivity to that naming rights. It's not Neyland Stadium.
That's right, Pilot. Get Adam right on the phone. Dive in front of this one. You need you to save Lindsey Nelson Stadium.
And I don't blame them for doing that, but you have to follow through. And even though it's not Neyland Stadium, it's still plenty of history. It's plenty popular, and baseball is so hot right now. I think even something like Thompson-Boling Arena might get some pushback in that type of name, but I don't think they'll completely change the
Is
name.
that already a field at Lindsey Nelson Stadium? Is the field named for someone?
Robert M. Lindsey.
Yeah, that's right. That's two Lindsays Lindsey Nelson and Robert M. Lindsey. So you can't really, well, I guess you could, but I just wonder if there's a way to some other product at Lindsey Nelson Stadium.
I was going to say, I might be assuming too much, but I feel like that name could be on the table. It might depend on the deal, but I could be wrong. It just strikes me as one where, there's history there, but is it so insurmountable that you're not willing to do anything about it?
And I think that angle goes into the topic that you'll want to talk about here, where the name adds so much tradition to that stadium. I mean, I know we don't want to talk about Alabama, but they are naming their field after Nick Saban this upcoming season, and I think it continues to nod to tradition, which are the names of the stadiums and the fields, and I think that's why it's important that, Danny White and them kept Neyland Stadium. Yeah. Hopefully Lindsey Nelson Stadium stays the same.
The problem with history is young people, it's not their history.
Right.
So therefore they don't care. There are people out there watching this who are like, who's Lindsey Nelson? Why would I care about Lindsey Nelson? They don't even know. I don't remember a lot of Lindsey. I remember Lindsey Nelson at the end when he's in the colorful sport coats doing the Cotton Bowl. Now, I know my University of Tennessee history. I've heard his voice a million times. But there are a lot of people out there on TikTok who do not care. Don't care. And we'll get into that with the orange, black, and gray a little later in the show. They'd be fine just chucking the orange. It's not my thing. No. That's old. So there are people who aren't going to care if you change Lindsey Nelson. I would be one who would care. So again, Pilot, here's a name you can preserve. Get in there and save that name. Overall, though, what do we got a problem with in terms of these things? You're one of these guys, you don't care. You're young, you don't care about tradition at all.
Yeah.
I love tradition.
And you're not that young, you're 38, so sorry.
I love tradition.
You're middle-aged.
But we can't play the hokey pokey. We can't go 1 foot in, 1 foot out. Either put a for sale sign on every gate, every patch, every jersey, or don't do it at all. Regal Stadium, it's where the soccer team plays, right? Sold. Food City Center, sold. Preserved by Pilot Neyland Stadium, sold. Lindsey Nelson,
Okay, we got the names. You're cool with names, okay? You're cool with logos. You cool with patches on jerseys too?
Absolutely. I don't care if they're winning a national championship that I go, that Pilot patch is really upsetting me. It's a natty.
Okay.
Win, win, win.
I
Yeah,
think
but
you
that doesn't correlate 100%. There's only one national champion, and you've got a ton of people who are taking corporate cash right now. So the idea that we got to do this to win.
You're a Celtics guy.
You don't necessarily win by doing that.
What's the patch? What's the patch they wear on the Celtics shoes?
G.
They
General
Electric.
No, it used to be. That was their practice jerseys. It's Vistaprint now.
Nobody cared whenever they were hoisting up the.
I did. I was sitting there saying this championship feels tainted.
That's what I'm saying. Nobody's gonna say that.
Well, you don't think that you get nose blind to it. Sometimes I don't even notice when they're wearing the SEC graduate patch.
Right.
I think you just will get used to it. I don't even know if I'll really notice halfway through the season that Pilot's on the field.
Right.
But the other side to that, did it bother me they won a championship with that on there? No, but I also don't think that Oh, thank God for the Vista print patch, or they wouldn't have won this title.
Let me show you where I am on tradition. I'm still that guy who's a little upset that Tony V grabbed some ice and threw it up in the air in Omaha. And I'm like, God, they'd look so much better if they weren't wearing the black unis. All
Okay,
I'm
yeah.
saying. Yeah.
Okay, well, that doesn't sound like, okay, you're all over the board.
Well, what
He
I'm trying to
is.
say
He
is
can
I'm not
keep
the
up
type of
with
person like young,
Yeah.
hokey pokey. Either do it, go full bore, or
Okay.
pull back on the
All
accelerator.
right, where are you guys on this stuff?
Go ahead.
It doesn't bother me as long. I think you don't want it to look like a '90s stock car design.
Yeah.
where you just
You don't want it to be
sponsors
narrow.
everywhere.
Yeah.
You don't want that everywhere. But if it's done tastefully, I think, to his point, I think anything that you can name, go for it. I mean, the one patch on MLB and NBA jerseys has gone over just fine. I mean, we've gotten to the point where on broadcast,
I don't know how I feel about signage and making money and selling sponsorships. I mean, I don't know. Anyway,
on TV broadcast now,
tastefully.
somebody would have emailed, so I had to.
they're superimposing their own ads over the boards at NHL games now.
That's
for
actually
TV
kinda
broadcasts.
cool, but yes.
But like
I
everyone's
don't
selling
like it, but it's
everything.
cool tech.
So if you're Tennessee, you've got to get your cut of the pie. You've got to sell what you have, and as long as it's done tastefully, I think it's fine.
There's a line. There's a line.
Yeah, there's a line, and we don't want it to be like English Premier League, where the logo is what you
Right.
see
Main thing.
Yeah.
and not the name.
Yeah, pilot
of
logo on the
team.
helmet instead of a power T.
Right,
That's a good
exactly.
point.
So you can go overboard, but accents and naming, being creative, and creating the revenue is okay.
I will say that logo we saw, the Neyland Stadium with Pilot below it, I think if you start seeing that everywhere, I think that is what's going to bother fans a little bit more. I think if you see the Pilot logo on the field and stuff like that, that's not a big deal. But if that logo starts becoming the representation everywhere of Neyland Stadium,
Oh,
that'll eventually, yeah.
I didn't even. That went right by that.
Yeah.
That's a good point. The logos
if-
they put when they
Yeah.
in that video
In
that we
that video.
showed.
If you start seeing that everywhere, I do think over time that could creep into people's thoughts that, hey, I
Bet
don't
you
really
do.
like that.
Bet you
Yeah.
do because somebody designed that
Yeah,
logo.
sure. And if it's
I
used
bet
every
they
once in a
didn't.
while.
I bet they didn't just design it for
yeah.
that video.
If it's used every once in a while, not a big deal. But if it's on the side of the stadium in a few years or something, that's going to maybe bother people.
You got a good eye. Right? It's good. Maybe you will be in a couple of hours.
Tyler, on the other hand.
Yeah,
you're out.
I'm just parched to this delicious water.
One part I do like is the ball letters coming
English
back.
Mountain
Come
is
with the
so good.
balls.
I know.
Yeah.
You like the balls coming back on the
Yeah, I think there are other things other than like the Pilot signage that is coming through this deal. Obviously, you have the Home of the Balls returning, which I think a lot of people will enjoy. Then the ball letters will come back as well, Tyler.
Man, there's no aftertaste. Anyway,
Jeez.
all right, very good. Now that we've done our bit for advertising,
I
what?
can't believe the poll question is not winning, turning into dollars. It's just blowing me
Yeah,
away.
okay.
Well, it went from 6 to 7%.
You congratulate. You have a big influence. All right, when we come back, ESPN has gone through UT's schedule and given them a percentage chance of winning in each game. We'll show you those and debate their takes. There's one thing that stood out. Come on back on the Sports Source.